he was bound and determined to prove that he is still the generational talent and the elite player that he has been for a decade plus in this league.
Crosby sent it for Gensel. Back for Sid the Kid. He scores!
Wonder how much we'll be hearing those names the final 10 minutes. Turnover, though. Crosby rips it, scores!
Sidney Crosby. The name alone carries weight. When he was drafted first overall in 2005 by the Pittsburgh Penguins, he wasn't just another talented prospect. He was supposed to be the future of hockey, the next Wayne Gretzky, the next Mario Lemieux, the face of the NHL for a new generation. And guess what? He didn't just live up to those expectations, he surpassed them.
Number 22, one-handed ahead now to Crosby. Look at that move around Brody. Down the wing, he fires, he scores!
From the moment he stepped onto NHL ice, Crosby was different. His playmaking ability, his hands, his hockey IQ, it was all at a level that few had ever seen before. By his second season, he had already won the Art Ross Trophy as the league's top scorer, the Hart Trophy as MVP, and the Lester B. Pearson Award as the Player's Choice for Best Player. At just 19 years old, he wasn't just a rising star. He was already the guy, the NHL's top player. And then came the championships. Crosby led the Penguins to their first Stanley Cup in 2009, proving that he could win when it mattered most. But that was just the beginning. In 2016 and 2017, he captained Pittsburgh to back-to-back cups, cementing his status as one of the greatest leaders in the game. Add in multiple MVPs, scoring titles, and the legendary Golden Goal for Team Canada at the 2010 Olympics. You have a player who has done it all. So, what's the problem? Why are we talking about the harsh truth about Sidney Crosby? Because for all the glory, all the trophies, and all the records, there's one thing that nearly stole it all away: injuries, specifically concussions. In a sport where toughness is a badge of honor, Crosby faced a challenge that no amount of skill or willpower could immediately overcome. His brain, his greatest asset, became his biggest vulnerability. At one point, his career was in serious jeopardy. Nobody knew if he would ever be the same again.
David and Goliath situation there. Here's Dumoulin shooting block. And Crosby scores as he falls forward. Incredible goal and another first goal.
Sidney Crosby is more than just an elite player. He's a once-in-a-generation talent. His vision on the ice is unparalleled. His ability to anticipate plays before they happen makes him one of the most dangerous forwards in NHL history. But what truly sets him apart is his relentless drive to win. Look at the numbers: over 1,500 career points, multiple 100-point seasons, and a reputation as one of the most complete players ever. He's not just a scorer, he's a playmaker, a defensive stalwart, and a leader who elevates every teammate around him. He's won everything there is to win: 3 Stanley Cups, 2 Olympic gold medals, a World Cup of Hockey, and multiple individual awards. Simply put, if there's a trophy in hockey, Sidney Crosby has probably won it. But what makes Crosby special isn't just his stats, it's his ability to show up in the biggest moments. Who can forget the Golden Goal, the 2010 Olympic final in Vancouver, overtime against Team USA, the entire hockey world watching, and who delivers? Crosby, with a shot that sent an entire nation into euphoria. That moment alone would have cemented his place in hockey history, but for Sid, it was just another chapter in a legendary career. And then there's his leadership. Crosby isn't loud, he isn't flashy, but when he speaks, his teammates listen. He leads by example, whether it's back-checking on a crucial play, battling through injuries, or delivering in clutch moments. The Penguins have been his team since day one, and through every challenge, he's remained their heartbeat. But for all the greatness, there's an undeniable truth. Crosby's career could have been much, much shorter. Concussions nearly robbed the game of its brightest star, and while he fought back to reclaim his throne, there was a time when nobody knew if he'd ever return to dominance. For all of Sidney Crosby's dominance, his greatest battle wasn't against another team or player, it was against his own body, specifically his brain. It all started on January 1st, 2011 at the Winter Classic. A seemingly routine hit from David Steckel caught Crosby off guard, rattling his head. Just a few days later, another hard hit against the boards from Victor Hedman sealed his fate. At first, it didn't seem like much, just another tough collision, something that happens in hockey all the time. But this wasn't just another hit. This was the beginning of a nightmare. Crosby was diagnosed with a concussion, and at first, the Penguins and their fans thought he'd be out for a few weeks, maybe a month. But as time passed, it became clear this was no ordinary injury. He was dealing with dizziness, headaches, sensitivity to light, and an overwhelming sense of fatigue. Some days, he couldn't even watch television without feeling sick. Playing hockey? That felt impossible. Weeks turned into months. Suddenly, the best player in the world was on the sidelines, with no clear timeline for a return. Every time he tried to skate, the symptoms returned. Some even began to wonder, was Sidney Crosby's career over at just 23 years old? This wasn't just devastating for the Penguins, it was devastating for the NHL. Crosby was the face of the league, the player that everyone tuned in to watch. If he was gone, the sport would suffer. And yet the worst part? Nobody had answers. Concussions were still a mystery in the hockey world. There was no clear treatment, no clear path to recovery. It was all trial and error, and Crosby was trapped in it. For over a year, the hockey world held its breath. Would he come back? Would he be the same? Or was this the tragic end of a career that had barely even begun?
Things to look for, and I think going back to when I got my first one, there wasn't a lot of, there wasn't a protocol, there wasn't a lot of information out there as far as how to handle them.
While fans saw the missed games in headlines, what most people don't realize is just how much Crosby's life off the ice was affected too. His concussion symptoms didn't just keep him from playing, they took over his entire daily routine. Following the initial hits in early 2011, Crosby experienced persistent headaches that sidelined him indefinitely. The severity of his symptoms, including headaches and sensitivity to light, made routine activities challenging. The same mind that made him a generational talent had turned into his greatest obstacle. He described feeling trapped in his own body, unsure if he'd ever feel normal again. The months of isolation, frustration, and doubt tested Crosby in ways no opponent ever could. His comeback wasn't just about hockey, it was about reclaiming his life.
That aside, I think it's, it's a great way to, to celebrate. I thought the fans had great ovations, and, with the videos and things like that, he means a lot.
Sidney Crosby could have given up. No one would have blamed him. After more than a year of struggling with symptoms, uncertainty, and frustration, he had every reason to walk away from the game. His health was at risk, his future was unknown, and with every failed attempt to return, doubt crept in. But if there's one thing about Sidney Crosby, it's this: he never quits. In November 2011, after nearly 11 months away from the game, Crosby finally returned. And how did he announce his comeback? With a performance for the ages. November 21st, 2011, Penguins versus Islanders, Crosby's first game back. Just minutes in, he picks up the puck, cuts to the middle, and rips a backhand shot into the net. The crowd erupts. Crosby is back. By the end of the night, he had 2 goals, 2 assists, and a reminder to the entire hockey world, I'm still here.
Goes to his knees, as he said, but he keeps on going. Yersin's on him. Chases him all over the ice. Crosby, wheel and deal. Avoids Yersin. Throw it to the net. It's in the goal.
But the battle wasn't over. Just a few weeks later, he was sidelined again with more concussion symptoms. The doubt returned. The question lingered. Would he ever truly be 100% again? The answer came in 2013. Fully healthy, fully determined, Crosby returned to MVP form. He dominated the league, proving that even after his worst battle, he was still the best player in the world. Then came the ultimate redemption, back-to-back Stanley Cups in 2016 and 2017. Not only did Crosby lead the Penguins to victory, but he did it while winning consecutive Conn Smythe trophies as playoff MVP. He wasn't just back, he was better than ever. His return wasn't just about winning, it was about redefining the game. Crosby's concussion battle forced the NHL to take head injuries more seriously. New protocols were put in place, and the league slowly began prioritizing player safety in ways it never had before. But the truth remains, 1 or 2 more bad hits, and it could all be over. That's the harsh reality of Sidney Crosby's career. Every time he steps on the ice, there's a risk that history could repeat itself. And yet, despite it all, he keeps going. Because for Crosby, the love of the game is greater than the fear of losing it. Sidney Crosby's legacy is undeniable. 3 Stanley Cups, multiple MVPs, and a highlight reel filled with legendary moments. He's not just one of the best players of his generation, he's one of the best ever. But here's the harsh truth. His career could have ended in 2011. One hit nearly took everything away. And even now, every time he takes the ice, there's a lingering fear. What if it happens again? Crosby has proven his resilience, but no one can escape time. He's 37, and while he's still elite, the window is closing. The NHL is faster, younger, and more physical than ever. How much longer can he sustain this level? One thing is certain, when he finally hangs up his skates, he'll leave behind a legacy of greatness, perseverance, and what-ifs. But until that day comes, Sidney Crosby is still writing his story. So, what do you think? Has Sidney Crosby done enough to be considered one of the greatest of all time? Or do his injuries and missed time put a slight asterisk on his legacy? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your take. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like and subscribe for more NHL content.